What if the most powerful thing you could ever do is simply speak, not to a crowd, not into a void, but to the God who listens not with distraction or delay, but with divine attention? Prayer. It's something we hear about in Sunday sermons and see quoted on social media. But what does it really mean to pray? Why does it feel so easy at times, and other times so impossibly hard? Have you ever prayed and wondered if your words ever left the room? Have you whispered desperate prayers at night, hoping, even pleading for an answer? If so, you're not alone. I've been there. We all have. And that's exactly what this video is about: the real, raw, and redeeming power of prayer in everyday life. My journey with prayer didn't begin in a church pew. It began in a moment of silence so deep it hurt. I was alone, overwhelmed, and felt unseen. The world kept moving, but I was stuck, emotionally frozen, spiritually dry. I didn't have fancy words. I didn't have a theology degree. All I had was a whisper: God, help me. And something happened, not in thunder, not in spectacle, but in peace. And that's when I realized prayer isn't about performance, it's about presence. It's about connection. It's about communion with the God who made us and meets us right where we are. In this video, we're going to walk through some of the most profound teachings Jesus gave on prayer, found in Matthew 6, Matthew 7, and Luke 18. But more than that, I'm going to share my own personal story: the highs, the valleys, the prayers that were answered, and the ones that seemed to echo back empty, until they didn't. So if you've ever struggled with prayer, if you've ever doubted its power or wondered if God hears you, stay with me. There's something here for you, something that might just change the way you see prayer and the way you experience God forever. Let's begin. If you've ever wondered how to pray, you're not alone. Even Jesus' own disciples asked him, "Lord, teach us to pray." And in response, he gave us something revolutionary, not a formula, not a performance, but a blueprint, one of the most profound and concise prayers ever spoken, the Lord's Prayer. Let's walk through it together. Our Father in heaven. Jesus begins with something radical: intimacy. Calling God Father was unheard of in that time. He wasn't just a distant deity. He was near, loving, present. Jesus invites us to see God not as a force to be feared, but as a Father to be trusted. Hallowed be your name. Before we ask for anything, we honor, we worship, we recognize His holiness. This isn't about groveling. It's about aligning our hearts with His greatness, reminding ourselves who He is. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. This line shifts everything. It's not my will be done, but yours. True prayer surrenders control. It seeks God's plan above our preferences. This is the heart of prayer: transformation, not transaction. Give us this day our daily. Notice the simplicity. It's not about luxury or long-term strategy, it's daily bread. God wants us to depend on Him daily, not just in crises. Prayer teaches us trust, not just expression. Forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. Prayer brings us face to face with both mercy and responsibility. We receive grace, but we're also called to extend it. True prayer softens the heart, making room for reconciliation. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This isn't fear-driven as dangers. He invites us to ask not just for protection, but for strength to walk rightly. Each phrase in this prayer is like a spiritual compass. It reorients us toward God, realigns our desires, and renews our focus. And here's the beauty: you don't need to repeat it word for word. And Jesus wasn't giving us a script, He was showing us a pattern. Begin with worship. Surrender your will. Trust for provision. Ask for forgiveness. Seek guidance. Prayer isn't about unlocking a secret code. It's about realigning our hearts. The Lord's Prayer isn't just words to recite. It's a way to live. I remember a time when all I could say was, "God, I don't even know what to pray." And that was okay, because prayer isn't about knowing the right words. It's about showing up with a real heart. Jesus wasn't giving us a prayer to memorize. He was giving us permission to speak to God like a child to a father, raw, honest, and real. So when you feel stuck, when words don't come, remember this: He already knows. He just wants you close. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. These words from Jesus in Matthew 7 aren't vague encouragement, they are bold promises. And yet, if you've ever prayed for something and didn't get what you asked for, you know how hard these words can feel. But let's pause. Let's look closely. Jesus doesn't say if you ask, or maybe you'll find. He uses language that is absolute. Ask, seek, knock. It's progressive, growing in intensity. Asking is verbal. Seeking is active. Prayer isn't passive, it's participatory. I remember praying for something years ago, something that, in my heart, I believed God wanted for me. I asked once, then again. Months passed. Nothing. I felt ignored, forgotten, maybe even punished. But over time, I realized something profound. God wasn't ignoring me, He was shaping me. My repeated prayers weren't wasted. They were deepening my trust, my dependence, my understanding of who He is. Sometimes we treat prayer like a vending machine. We press a button and expect a result. But Jesus isn't pointing to a transaction. He's inviting us into a relationship. Look at what He says next in Matthew 7. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? It's not just about asking, it's about who we're asking. We're not begging from a reluctant God. We're talking to a loving Father who delights in giving good gifts to His children. If even flawed human parents know how to care for their kids, how much more does God, who is perfect? This changes everything. When we pray, we're not twisting God's arm. We're aligning our hearts with His. We're trusting that when we ask, He hears. When we seek, He reveals. And when we knock, He opens, even if it's not the door we expected. I once prayed for healing and got silence. But through that season, I found something deeper: peace that passed understanding, strength I didn't know I had, and faith that anchored me when the answers didn't come. The answer to your prayer might not come in the form you expect, but it will come in the form you need. That's the promise of a good Father. And remember, sometimes persistence isn't about convincing God, it's about preparing us. So don't give up. Ask boldly. Seek diligently. Knock persistently. Because the door isn't locked, it's waiting. There's a kind of silence that's heavier than noise, the silence of unanswered prayer. When you pray and wait, and nothing seems to happen, doubt creeps in. You wonder, is God even listening? It's a question I've wrestled with, and maybe you have too. And namaste. But Jesus knew we'd face this, and He gave us a story to hold on to in those dry, silent seasons, the parable of the persistent widow in Luke 18. He tells of a woman who goes to a judge begging for justice. This judge doesn't care about God or people. He's cold, hardened. But this widow won't give up. Day after day she comes. She pleads. She insists. And finally, not because He has compassion, but because He's exhausted by her persistence, the judge gives in, and then Jesus says something powerful. Listen to what the unjust judge says. Will not God bring about justice for His chosen ones, who cry out to Him day and night? This parable isn't about comparing God to an unjust judge. It's about contrasting Him. If even someone with no heart eventually responds to persistence, how much more will a loving, just God respond to the cries of His children? But here's what really strikes me. Jesus starts the parable with the reason He tells it, to show them that they should always pray and not give up. Not give up. Those 3 words can feel impossible when prayers echo back in silence. I remember a season when I was praying for a breakthrough in my health, my career, and my spirit. I felt forgotten. I couldn't see the hand of God, but I kept praying. Some days all I could manage was a whisper. Other days, tears were my only words. But over time I learned something sacred. God Silence is never absence. He may be quiet, but he is not distant. The persistent widow teaches us that faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just showing up, again and again, with raw honesty, with nothing but hope. And Jesus ends the parable with a question that hits deep. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? That's the real test. Not whether we feel powerful, but whether we stay faithful. Persistence in prayer isn't about earning answers. It's about cultivating endurance. It's about proving, not to God but to ourselves, that our trust isn't shallow, that our faith isn't circumstantial. I've learned to see those silent seasons not as punishment, but as invitation. An invitation to go deeper, to lean in, to believe that even when I can't hear him, he still hears me. So if you're in that place of heaven feels, silent Dante, stop, keep coming, keep crying out, keep knocking on heaven's door with the faith of a widow who knew that justice had to come. Because it does, maybe not in the way you expected, maybe not in your timing, but in the way a perfect God knows is best. And in that waiting, something changes. Not just your situation, but your soul. There are moments in life when words fail, when grief is so raw, so sharp, so overwhelming, that all you can do is fall to your knees and weep. That was me. That was us. After 7 long years of waiting, of hoping, of praying, we finally became pregnant, only to leave. I remember the silence in the room when the doctor confirmed it. The kind of silence that feels eternal. The joy that had just bloomed inside us was suddenly snatched away, and all that remained was sorrow. I had prayed so hard for that child. I believed, I trusted. And then, it was gone. I asked God, why now? After all these years, no answer came. Just tears, pain, silence. But somehow, in the wreckage of that moment, I found a different kind of prayer, not filled with words, but filled with presence. I learned that when all you can say is, God, help, it's enough. When your strength is gone and your heart is shattered, he listens to the groaning of your spirit. Months passed. Healing came slowly, but we kept praying. We held on to faith, even when it was fragile. And then God surprised us. We were blessed with a beautiful daughter. We're firstborn here on earth, full of joy, light, and promise. Hope returned. But just when we thought we could breathe again, life hit us, harder this time. While I was pregnant with our son, we lost our family's entire income. No warning, no backup plan. Just gone. We were preparing for a second child, and suddenly, we had no idea how we'd even provide for the first. Rent, bills, food, it all became mountains in our minds. And once again, prayer wasn't just a spiritual practice, it became a lifeline. We didn't just pray once, we prayed every night. We prayed through fear, through tears, through questions. We told God we didn't know what to do. We admitted our weakness. And then we waited, not passively, but faithfully. In that waiting, something shifted, not just around us, but in us. Our trust deepened, our priorities sharpened. Our relationship grew stronger, and so did our faith. I started a career in direct sales. It wasn't what I had imagined, but I sensed God opening a door. I said yes, even though I was scared, and what began as a mustard seed exploded into a massive blessing. Sales came in, momentum built, confidence. Our home filled again with hope. Not just the hope of survival, but of restoration. At the same time, my husband's business began to recover. Slowly at first, then rapidly. It was as if heaven had been holding its breath, and now the floodgates opened. And that's when I understood something I had only heard others say before. Sometimes God doesn't change your situation right away because he's using it to change you first. What we went through was not just a test, it was preparation for something greater, something deeper, something more meaningful than we ever imagined. Looking back, I see now that God never left, not once. His silence wasn't rejection. It was a sacred space where he was strengthening us for the miracle ahead. If you're walking through a valley right now, I know how it feels. To grieve a child, to fear for your future, to cry out and hear nothing. I know what it means to feel like you're at the end, like hope is running out. But I also know what happens when you keep praying, when you trust even in the dark, when you keep knocking, not because you feel strong, but because you believe God is still good. Don't stop praying. Don't stop hoping. Don't stop trusting, because the breakthrough may not come in thunder, but it will come quietly, powerfully, suddenly. And when it does, you'll look back and say, like I do now, God was working the whole time. This was the prayer that changed everything. Lord, even if nothing changed, I will still trust you. And he answered, in ways I never expected, in timing I never planned, and in blessings I could never have imagined. After everything we went through, the loss, the waiting, the restoration, I came to realize something simple but life-changing. Prayer isn't just for emergencies, it's for every day. We often treat prayer like a 911 call, only picking it up when we're drowning. But what if we saw it the way Jesus did? As daily bread, daily strength, daily connection with the Father who never leaves. The truth is, the more consistent you are in prayer, the more confident you become in God. You start to hear His voice more clearly. You begin to recognize His guidance, not just in the moments, but in the small ones too. So how do we make prayer part of our everyday life? Let me share a few practices that helped me anchor prayer into my daily rhythm. Point 1. Start small and specific. Prayer doesn't have to be long to be powerful. You can start your day with a 2-minute prayer before your feet hit the floor. Just say, Lord, guide me today. Keep me close. Help me notice you. That's it. Simple. Sincere. 2. Set prayer triggers. Tie prayer to things you already do. When you brush your teeth, pray for wisdom. When you drive, thank God for safety and ask Him to use you today. When you eat, ask Him to bless your work. Build prayer into your routine until it becomes second nature. 2-3. Write your prayers. Some days my mind feels too cluttered to pray aloud. So I write. I journal. I pour out my thoughts on paper like a letter to God. Looking back later, I often find that the answers came not in fireworks, but in quiet faithfulness. 4. Keep it honest. God doesn't need perfect grammar. He wants your heart. If you're mad, say it. If you're scared, admit it. And if you're unsure, ask for clarity. The most powerful prayers aren't polished, they're real. 5. End your day with gratitude. Before you sleep, whisper a prayer of thanks. Even if it was a hard day, thank Him for strength, for breath, for one more chance to grow. Gratitude shifts the atmosphere of your heart and reminds you that God's been with you, even in the chaos. 6. Don't pray alone. Find someone to pray with. A friend, your spouse, a group. When we pray together, our faith multiplies. There's strength in shared hope and mutual encouragement. Jesus promised that when 2 or more gather in His name, He is there, and He meant it. I know life gets busy. We juggle jobs, kids, expectations. But prayer isn't one more task, it's a retreat. It's a recharge. It's the one place where you don't have to perform. I found that when prayer becomes a habit, peace becomes a lifestyle. The world may still shake, trouble may still come, but inside there's a calm, a quiet knowing that you're not alone, you're not forgotten, and you are heard. And here's the beautiful part. God doesn't just want your time, He wants your trust. He wants to walk with you through every moment, from the ordinary to the extraordinary. So let prayer be your breath. Let it be the background music of your life. Whisper it in the kitchen. Speak it in the car. Sing it in the shower. Let your whole life be a conversation with the one who loves you most. Because prayer isn't just what we do, it's who we are. Children who talk to their Father every day, in every way. We've journeyed through loss, through longing, through breakthrough and belief. And if there's one truth that echoes through every moment of this story, it's this. You are never alone. Not in your pain, not in your confusion, not even in your silence. The same God who taught us to say, Our Father, is still leaning in, still listening, still loving, still working in the unseen. Prayer isn't just something we do to check a spiritual box. It's the heartbeat of our relationship with God. It's where we bring our brokenness, our dreams, our doubts, and or gratitude. It's not about having the right words. It's about having an honest heart. Maybe you've watched this entire video and thought, I want to believe, but I'm tired. Or maybe you feel too distant, too hurt, too worn out to try again. Friend, don't give up. Don't stop praying. Because God isn't finished. He's not just the God of beginnings. He's the God of redemption. The God who holds your tears in his hands and uses even your delays for your development. The God who hears the whispered prayers in the middle of the night and turns them into testimonies you never saw coming. You may be in a season of asking, don't stop. You may be in a season of waiting, don't walk away. You may be in a season of wrestling, he's still with you. Prayer doesn't always change our circumstances immediately, but it always changes us, and often that changes the very miracle we needed most. I've seen it in my life, in my heartbreak, in my hope, in my healing. I've seen what happens when you trust God not just for what's next, but for what's now. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this: God is not distant. He is involved. He is active. He no takey. He is present. He doesn't ignore your prayers. He stores them like treasure. He hears the unspoken ones. He holds on to every tear. And even when you don't feel him, he's moving behind the scenes, orchestrating something bigger than you can see right now. The quiet seasons aren't a sign of God absence. They are proof of his patience, of his deep, careful love, working at a depth we often can't perceive. And as we close this video, I want to challenge you. Don't let prayer be your last resort. Let it be your first response. Start again today. Start small. Start with what you have, even if all you can offer is a whisper. So pray when it's easy, and pray when it's not. Pray when the blessings come, and pray when they don't. Talk to him when you're full of joy, and cry out when you're filled with pain. He's not looking for perfection. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for connection. Let prayer be your anchor when the winds of life blow strong. Let it be your light when the night feels long. Let it be your reminder that no matter what, you are never, ever alone. If this message has encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of faith, of honesty, and of prayer. And if you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because there's so much more to explore together. God bless you. Keep praying. Keep believing. And never forget, the one you're praying to loves you more than you can imagine.